Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one's going to be for Season 2, Episode 6, Blood Sisters. Um, this was, in my opinion, an okay episode. I didn't think it was amazing. Um, it was still fun and stuff like that. I don't think it was like a massive drop in quality. But it just, I felt it should have been more than what it was. And it ultimately comes down to the same thing I said about last week's episode and kind of some of my worries about the series going forward is that I don't feel that we know a lot of the characters on our Ghost crew all that well. Zeb, Sabine, and Hera especially, and Sabine most of all. And so going into this episode, hearing that it was a Sabine focused episode, I was happy because I thought, okay, now's the time. I'm finally going to get to know this character a bit. And I know there's a lot of people out there who kind of dislike her. They don't like the style that they're going for, the graffiti and the weird color hair and the sassy character and stuff like that. I don't mind any of that. I just want to get to know some of the important things about her. And this episode told us a little bit, but it didn't show us anything. And I think that's a big problem that I'm probably going to have with a lot of the episodes going forward, in that, by all accounts, that's the way they're going to tell their history, is that it's just going to be the characters in the present day talking and very vaguely referring to events from the past. It really doesn't look like they're ever going to show us a flashback. And to me, that is a huge problem. I don't get why they're doing that. Obviously, I'm making the assumption that they're not going to do that, but it's kind of. It's been like two episodes in a row where you probably could have used flashback, but didn't. So I'm kind of assuming that that's just going to be a thing going forward. Um, Maybe we'll have an important Ahsoka flashback. They may deem that important enough to actually animate it, but just especially this episode, I thought you absolutely had a prime little story to tell in the middle of this episode with Sabine and Ketsu escaping from the Imperial facility that they were a part of, Imperial Academy. I felt that was something you needed to show. They keep referring to this moment. You left me to die. And we had got mention in the last Sabine focused episode in season 1, the episode that I really didn't like in season 1, that Sabine was part of the Imperial Academy and stuff didn't go wrong there and she wanted out and got out. We get a little bit more information on that here, except that when it came to leaving the Imperial Academy, they actually fought their way out by all accounts. They escaped and something happened. They got injured and Sabine was left behind. That's an interesting story, and it's an important enough character moment that they really should have shown us the moment to compare it to the moment where they then begin to work together. Really contrast and show how the characters have grown. That's ultimately why you use backstories. That's why you show flashbacks, because you instantly get the comparison between who the character was then and who the character is now. And this was a prime example because you now have Sabine at a point where she trusts a lot of people, whereas there's been a lot of time in her life when she's been alone. There's definitely the implication that after her best friend Ketsu Onya betrayed her, she kind of has been a bit of a lone wolf since, and it's taken a long time for her to fully trust all the members of the Ghost crew. That's a cool little thing, but they didn't do enough to really get that across in the episode, I feel. And flashback should have been, I think, a way to do that. And it's got to the stage where I'm actually reading a good few other reviews of the episodes, and it's something I've noticed a couple of other reviewers say, especially some of the bigger sites like I think what is AV Club review and stuff like that, that they would agree with what I'm kind of saying in that, yeah, like, okay, this is a cool episode focusing on this character, but we're not really getting any information here, and that's the problem. It's just a line of dialogue here or there. You left me to die. Can I please be informed about this? I'm just kind of trying to interject and kind of get some of this information, but they don't seem set on doing that. And for a season where like Dave Filoni and some of the other producers have been coming out and saying, yeah, we're really going to get into the characters, it's kind of been like, yeah, but just barely. Like, I really don't get the aversion to not using flashbacks when it's clearly the best way to actually show this. Um, because at the end of the day, this episode, the main things of importance is the interaction between Sabine and Ketsu. The actual idea of getting this information from the droid that they pick up it's not important at all. It's been the same plot for the last like 2 or 3 episodes in a row. It was the generators in the Ezra episode. It was what was it last time out? The actual plot, like delivering the food to the planet. I was like, okay, it's part of the rebellion and the plot of helping the rebellion, helping the cause. But it's not important to the character plot that we're focusing on right now, the real overall story that we're going for right now. Part of that story is getting to know our main cast a bit more, and in that sense, this episode should have been focused more on revealing character things than what I feel it did a little bit too much is that, like, oh, I have the droid now. No, I do. I'm going to capture it from you. Let's team up and all this sort of stuff. It really felt like you just replace the characters in the Hondo and Ezra episode with Sabine and Ketsu, because it ends up working out very similarly to that, and that Hondo is just like, I was kind of evil in this episode, but now I'm going to potentially come back and help you next time I show up. It ends up working out the exact same way. I do feel this was a little bit kind of better done in terms of the character interactions, but still, you know, getting away from the whole I really wish they did a flashback thing, Ketsu Onya as a character, I feel it was almost her episode more so than Sabine. In that, like, okay, as a first season 2 Sabine focus episode, I get what they were going for. This was the episode to kind of confirm to everyone that Sabine's issues with potential trusting of her teammates on the Ghost team are gone. She completely trusts them, they trust her, Hera making her the leader for this mission, and stuff like that. You can tell that there's a trust there between them, and it's taken a while to get there, and fine. But definitely it was Ketsu that was the majority of the focus of this episode, because it was closely through her that most of the story ended up coming out. Now, she's interesting in that she reveals that it was kind of their dream when they left the Imperial Academy to become members of the Black Sun. They became bounty hunters, and this is a new thing we found out about Sabine here, is that at some point she was a bounty hunter, which is like, okay, you keep adding all of these things onto Sabine, like she's an artist, she's a bounty hunter, she's a Mandalorian. Could you please explain any of the, like, incentive for her as a character to become one of these things? That's really, I suppose, the main thing that I'm missing out on. You're telling us these things without actually giving you the character motivation for why they actually wanted to do them in the first place. It's just like, you wanted to become members of Black Sun, like, really? To me, like, Black Sun is kind of one of those things, like, unless you're Darth Maul, like in the Clone Wars, and you're, like, actually actively seek them out, it's not something, like, you really aspire to be, like, an assassin bounty hunter for Black Sun. It was a bit weird, I think, the way it was kind of all came about. But either way, it creates a difference between Sabine and her former best friend Ketsu, and that Ketsu made that happen, but to do so she had to leave Sabine behind. And then Sabine, after working as a bounty hunter for a while, now has a crew, now has a cause that she can get behind. And you can see Ketsu over the course of this episode gradually begin to see something in the loyalty that Sabine has to, like, Chopper, especially in this episode, wanting to make sure that she fulfills this mission for the rebellion, for the people that this information will help, and stuff like that. Ketsu gradually begins to see that, to the point where, after a few times if they're forced to work together, they end the episode on fairly good terms. And to the point where, like, at some point, when Ketsu, as he clears her head, she's going off, she doesn't want to commit to anything right now. I think when she does make her entrance back into the story, she potentially will join the rebellion for good, or will make some sort of a sacrifice to help the rebellion, and it'll be a big moment for Sabine. I don't really know how they're going to use the character going forward, but interesting design with her helmet, and then when she took off the helmet, another interesting, design. They seem to have that kind of edgy kind of look. Sabine constantly changing her hair. Ketsu with a kind of unexpected hairstyle, I suppose, and stuff like that. So, you know, definitely some interesting stuff with the characters in this episode. But in general, it just feels a little muddled in that it tried to accomplish something, but didn't do it as well as it could have. And in the end, they get the information that they need, and it kind of ends in the same way that the last 3 episodes of the show have ended, and that it's just like, okay, mission accomplished, you've kind of learned something, we've kind of met a new character, big success. Like, it was Hondo 2 episodes ago, it was Quarry last episode, they got the B-Wing, they got the stuff to the planet. Before, they got the generators, Hondo, and now this one, it's Ketsu and the information. It's just like, okay, I get what you're going for. I wouldn't have as much complaints, I think, about the overall plot of the episode if the character stuff was on the level I kind of expect it to be at. But either way, it was cool. You got some nice action scenes. Ezra, I thought, was a bit weird in the episode, and that, like, I get they've set it up that he likes Sabine and acts a little bit differently around her because of that, trying to turn the charm on around her when it's clearly not working and stuff like that. But he just felt a bit like an idiot the way he was acting, and I kind of get, like, whatever age he is and stuff like that, being around her, it's meant to come across like that, but it was to the point where I was just kind of like, he just exited the story when he fell off the ship, and then I was wondering, like, are they going to have a moment where he comes back and they prove to, like, Ketsu that having a team with you and not working alone is more important? They didn't go for that, and then Ezra just turns up at the end because his idiotic antics in this episode got him out of the mission randomly. Notice he was missing all of his shots as well. He's not a very good shot with his weapon, though I suppose it is just, primarily a lightsaber that kind of works as a blaster. It doesn't seem particularly accurate. Definitely notable that he just didn't hit anything with it. I'm interested going forward in that Sabine, like, based on this episode, there's still a lot of stuff I want to know. Like, what is the deal with her being a Mandalorian? Like, I think you need to explain, like, what planet she's from, what the exact details around her and the whole Mandalorian culture, stuff like that, comes from. And just in general, like, delve into, like, why she was part of the Imperial Academy in the first place. Why did they then want to become part of the Black Sun and stuff like that? There's stuff that you can do, but they just didn't go into it, and it's just like, I don't like to bring this up often because I think it's a criticism that's often overdone, but in this case I would probably say it's a little bit valid here, and that's the idea that, this compared to the Clone Wars is more of a kids focused show. You can just see that in terms of, like, everything. There's very few episodes where things are super crazy intense and stuff like that. And they are going more for each episode, kind of being a bit more fun. But it's something I never like to say because I think it's just really diminishing the way you look at kids. Like, if you really feel that way, that kids can't possibly understand, like, the idea of a flashback and how you can get information about the character of the present day from learning about their past, like, kids aren't that stupid. You're really diminishing misunderstanding how intelligent they are, and stuff like that. I just kind of look at stuff like anime and manga and stuff like that. That is kind of aimed at roughly the same age audience as this is, but the likes of Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, they go into flashbacks all the time. They should develop these characters, and it's aimed at the same audience, but they can do it because they don't really look down on kids and, oh no, they won't understand that. It's just like, no, this is part of my story. I'm not going to really care about, really who's reading it. This is what I want to do. I don't really know what's going on here. Is it a mandate from Disney that they can't do anything overly complex, or what? I'm just, like, at this stage a little bit frustrated with how the show's going with regards to flashback. There's so much stuff presented in season 2 that you could do flashback with. This is way different than like stuff in the Clone Wars and stuff like that, where when we were first introduced to Ahsoka, there was no need to show any flashback really with her, because the stuff going forward from when she becomes Anakin's Padawan is the most important stuff to learn about her. But now that we've had the gap between Ahsoka, where she exits the Clone Wars and where she enters here, there's a lot of questions that, like, I think to some extent need to be answered. How did she go from being not involved with the Jedi Order at all? What did she do after that, first of all? We don't know. And then how did she come to join the rebellion? That's an important thing, I think, to tell. Rex, to some extent, I think it would be interesting to like explain, like, when was the moment when he and Gregor and stuff like that, they took out their chips. What happened with regards to Order 66 and them? Were they just stationed somewhere else? Or what happened there? How did they really come to move from being part of the army to being on that planet that they turn up on? And just in general, the idea of the main plot of this show basically being us following this crew of people, the Ghost Crew, in general, like, that's something that, again, there's an origin story there, because we start with a team basically already formed. We see our main character Ezra join that team. You have backstories just in terms of explaining how everyone came to join the team. You know, the A New Dawn novel explains Kanan, but, you know, we've already seen here that they're not just telling us information about characters' past to other source material like comics and stuff like that. They are telling some of us in the animation. They're just not showing us in the animation, which I don't understand. So, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode. I'm really interested with this one, because I think I've been very accepting of the kind of trend of, like, okay, we're getting away from the main plot of, like, Ahsoka and Rex realizing kind of is Darth Vader Anakin and stuff like that, and it being more character focused. But given that they've made that shift, I want them to really go for it. I want to learn a lot about these characters and not have the episodes just kind of be wasted on tiny little stuff and being vague. So definitely let me know what your thoughts were on the characters, our introduction to a new character, what we learned about Sabine's history and stuff like that. So that's been a video. Thanks for watching, and bye.